Hey, this is Tom from Ordeal, and I'm going to be showing you how to use automation to improve the build-up of a track. So I have decided to go into a bit more of a techno style track right now. This is just the basic outlines that I have been working on one of the sample packs that I've been creating. And this sound will be familiar to people in the future if they decide they want to download the techno sample pack. So I'll click on the drop, I'll show you what it sounds like. So it's not anything too heavy, it's not like dubstep or bass house with massive growls, but we still want it to really impact hard for the people in the club, for the people dancing, and even just the people listening in their own flats. And so this is why the build-up is the single most important part of the drop. Even though it's not the drop, which has obviously got to hit hard, it's the build-up that increases the anticipation and the sudden release that kicks in. So I'll play you what I have so far. It's a fairly minimalistic sound, which is brilliant because it means we really have to play about with our technique here. So let's have a little listen. So it sounds very techno, and it definitely needs some spicing up. So what can we do? First of all, I have a track here called White Noise. It's currently muted, there's no white noise playing, but if we just unmute this, we now have white noise. Now this is a technique that I've only just started using, but having a dedicated track for white noise is really quite effective, because you can use it to really bring some energy and a bit of noise into the track. So what we're going to do is we are going to open an automation lane for the volume. And so we are going to create a new point. We're just going to bring it up and then of course bring it down again. So drop the volume by quite a bit. We don't need it loud at all. So one of the main things about white noise that we can do is a white noise sweep. Who wants to download a white noise sweep anymore? Everyone's doing it, and it's a bit tacky, and it's getting to the point where we recognize the same sweep from the same sample pack that everyone's using. So let's make our own. All we need to do, add some effects. What shall we add? Let's add a filter. So let's just use X-File Records DJM filter. This one's pretty brilliant. Let's just add it to the automation lane, and where will it be? Knob. And let's just bring this up so it also filters up. Oh. Create new point. Filter up. So we're just high passing it. Let's have a listen. Perfect. So that's good. We know that it's gonna rise up through the filter. Let's just add a nice curve. So slope shape, fast end, and see how it's more of a jump kind of curve instead of just a standard light line. Fast end again. And that way it just scoops up and it increases exponentially in rate. We can just bring this point there. So we will need quite a lot of fine tuning with the volume. We probably don't need much at all. But let's try. If we turn it on, it's going to be on unless we've got the automation lane down. We don't want this, so let's add a gate. Gate. Now then, if we're automating right, it shouldn't matter, because in the track in the sections of the track that we don't want it, it will just be off. But see, when we're editing about with the cursor here, we don't want that. So let's just set a gate to an auxiliary input. Then we just need to send something. Let's just send the main sound to the auxiliary input. And if it's detecting the sound, right now it's not detecting the sound. If I suddenly play the sound, so it's like a sidechain compressor where it's reacting off another sound instead of itself. But this just means even when we have it at high volume, or in this case low volume, but it's an annoying sound, unless that sound is playing, we're not going to hear the white noise. So let's have a little listen just to the last couple of bars and see how much that improves it. Now, interestingly, you can hear that the white noise isn't on permanently, it's only kicking in when the sound is there. This is really quite handy because it sounds less and less like a white noise sweep. So let's just add a delay and it will suddenly sound a lot more musical. So let's just use Reaper's stock delay, 5-tap ping pong. Let's have a little play about. So you can hear it just has a little shimmer, especially in this last bit. And techno is all about these very subtle shimmering sounds, the very tiny nuances in the music that make it very, very interesting if you are in a club and elsewhere. So techno is a great genre, but it needs a lot to spice it up because it can be very, very minimal. And this is exactly what we're doing. Obviously, all these techniques will apply to your main room EDM. You just need to do it way harder, way more extreme. Okay. So we have the white noise here, and there's a lot else that we can now do. So what I'm going to add a new track. This is going to double up, similar to the white noise. This is going to be a reverb track, and we are actually going to send everything to the reverb track except the low frequency drums and bass sound. So this reverb track, if soloed, now sounds like this. So you can hear there's the shimmery hi-hats, the stab chords, and the snare. We're going to add a reverb. Let's do RC48. This is Native Instruments reverb, and it's pretty amazing, pretty wonderful sound. Because it's a reverb send, we're going to want it on 100% wet, because if it was on mix, it would be on a single track, but because it's on its own send and we're mixing it in with the real tracks, then we can have it on wet. And let's set it to quite a big reverb, quite a big size, and pronounced middles. We could play about with all this stuff, but let's just increase the pre-delay a bit. And that should be it for us. Now what we're going to do, we are going to gate this. So it's going to be going through a brilliant plugin called Trigger Gate. What this does is it gates it very much like trance music. So if we solo this, it's already soloed. Sounds very trancey, very Tiesto, but laid deep in the background it will sound pretty amazing and you won't think it's a trance song. So it just adds a bit of shimmer as well. Now then, along with this trigger gate, we want to add a swelling pitch, but we don't want to shift it up through the semitones because that will make it out of tune. Instead, what we are going to do is we're going to alter the formant of it. So this is like how you can have a male singer and a female singer singing the same note, but the male's voice sounds a lot deeper. This is because different frequencies are accentuated even though the same note is being played. So this is what the formant shift does. If we bring it up, it kind of chipmunks the sound, and bring it down, it turns you into a giant. But it's in the same key and it's the same notes being played, just different accentuation on the frequencies. So what we're going to do, we're going to play about with this as it goes up, and we are going to essentially sweep it up in a similar fashion to this. You will find that almost every curve I use will be a ramp like that where it increases. That's because you want the general bulk of the sound to be subtly increasing with a final sudden sharp increase. So where is the pitch? The trigger gate has an absolutely colossal amount of automation items, but we just want the formant adjust full range. Now then, create new point. We're just going to sweep it up like that, and we're just going to set the curve to fast end again. Let's have a listen. So we can bring this even higher. One thing I realised I don't like is when the snare hits, it makes it quite a dirty sound, and we want this to be quite clean, quite shimmery. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the layered snare, so just delete that. And that will make the sound a lot better. Now the white noise will sound good mixed in. Perfect. So let's have a little listen to the last few bars before the drop as it is, and then we'll be able to see what we need to do. So that's quite a subtle effect so far. If we were to mute this, it would sound, or take this on. So these are the little subtleties that we need to play about with. What I'm going to do is I am going to make sure all the bass is removed. So we're going to actually have a main mix bus. And this is going to include effects for every single thing. So we're going to play about with the high pass. And we're just going to set the gain so it goes like that. But we don't want too high a bandwidth, so we'll set that there. And this is the control that we're going to be playing about with. So we're going to automation, high pass, and it's the low shelf band gain, and we're just gonna bring this down as well. Make sure this is back to normal, and we'll set the shape fast end. So that just removes all the bass, so when the bass does kick in, it is a lot heavier than what you anticipated because your ears suddenly ran out of bass, in a sense. And then already we have quite a good build without having to add all the snares suddenly going da 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 like that, which is annoying after a while. but we can add some increasing level percussion if we want. So let's just add an wrong button. Add a new track. Let's get this to the bottom. Let's call it percussion. And Control-Alt-X gets a Media Explorer, music production. I'm going to do electronic genres. Let's just take a sample from something. Let's take something completely inappropriate for the style. Let's see if there's a trap sound that will somehow tie in with 125 BPM techno. I quite like that. We're in the key of D minor, so this will work. And all we need to do is make sure this is the right length. It's horrendously inappropriate for the sound, which is perfect in a way for techno. Let's just duplicate this. And let's use this one as well. So let's just stretch it out and replace the last one. And we're going to glue them together. Glue selected items. And we're going to definitely chuck this in the reverb. We're going to high pass it to take some of the sub out. And we're just going to add a bit of a ping pong delay, which is what we're going to be modulating most. Redelay. 5-tap ping pong. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play about with the wet. So the wet is what's going to increase. Create new point. Get this whole thing down. This down. Playing with automation points are a nightmare sometimes. And once it wants to cooperate, that will have to do. So that suddenly works out quite well. So what we can do, we can set this to split. At random bits. We'll just delete random ones. Like this. So we're not doubling it up regularly. And we're just increasing the frequency, but there's no regularity beforehand. Let's have a listen to this. Drop it down a bit. This bit can even be sped up. Like so. If we Shift W and squash it into half the time. And then just do this. That'll sound good right before the drop. And to top it off, we will use the same pitch format shift, which makes it increase in format and shrillness. So format adjust full range. Create new point, create new point, bring this up here, and as always, set the shape, fast end. I don't like it being that high up, so I'm going to bring it down. We want this one to be a bit more subtle. And you can always mix the dry in with the wet. Now I'm going to show you one final effect that works really well, and it's called glitch. Oh, not this one. There is another one called glitch. This one. So this one takes a second to load on my computer, which normally demonstrates it's a good one. Here we go, by D-Blue, and we're just going to run the whole sound through of the reverb through glitch as well as a send. So let's have a little listen. I'll bring it up. So this is a really handy tool because it just chops up the sound a bit, and if we set this to increase in volume, the choppiness of it will create a bit of energy, as well as the high frequency content that is generated by some of the bit crushing effects. It gives it a bit more of a cool vibe, and in most electronic genres, when you're going for a heavy drop, you can afford slightly rough sounding sounds, and the final mix will kind of polish bits off while retaining some of the dirtiest sounds. So let's have a listen now. So we're getting a lot closer, and this is really good. A great way to kind of polish it off is main mix effects. So if we use a compressor, Supercharger GT is one of my favorite ones. It's by Native Instruments. And what we want to happen is we want the drop to suddenly open up and be really powerful. We're going to compress everything anyway a little bit, but let's compress the build up a little bit more than we need to. So let's have a play about with the drop, make that sound good, and we'll play about with the wet dry. So the drop will be parallel compressed and the build up will be fully compressed, and by opening up the parallel compression we'll open up a little bit of room, a little bit more dynamics, and the drop will suddenly sound punchier and way more interesting. So let's play about. Let's just get it going. So set the gain till the light is yellow. Add a little bit of saturation. Now for the compression. We could go all the way. Let's just go a little bit. Add a bit of fatness. So that's dry. That's wet. So this is a good setting just for a little bit, but let's compress it more now. So that's the kind of switch we're looking for. supercharge it, and we're going to go for wet. So currently wet is at 100% for the build, and we're going to bring it down quite significantly, maybe to 38-40%, just under halfway, so we can really feel the compression. And let's have a listen now. So you just feel all the sounds getting crushed dynamically, and then it opens out here. What this does mean is while this is getting dynamically crushed, it's going up in volume, it's perceived as louder. So we are going to also, as a final little touch, add a volume automation, create new point, create a second point, and we are going to we're going to just bring this whole thing down a little bit. So this is at minus 9.86, this is minus 14, let's see if that works. Ooh, those points need to be moved across. There we go. And we can move this back up to the minus 9.86, was it? And we'll set the curve to fast end, so it just scoops out that last bit. I'm going to drop this a little bit more. There we go, that's made quite a significant impact, and just to show you the difference, I'm going to play only the tracks that were there to start with. And we're gonna mute the sends. So all of a sudden, by just adding in everything all at once, you have a much deeper mix that just really kicks in. I really recommend that you don't go overboard, because if you remember, if you're in a club, if you're in a dance room, everything's amplified, everything's super loud. Your ears are very sensitive to those very high frequency sweeps, especially 2.5 kilohertz. So what might be a subtle sweep in the bedroom, if you're producing in your bedroom or in the studio or your kitchen, wherever you're producing, might be quite significant in a club. So just watch out with that, because normally, to a degree, less is more, especially if you're not going for a full out Skrillex dubstep drop. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe, and please comment if you got any suggestions. Thank you.